Hey, what's up, guys? My name's Andrew Pecorar from Pecs Metal Picks.
Hey, I'm Sean from Make Them Suffer.
All right, Sean, so you guys recently put out a new album called Worlds Apart. How has the reception for that been so far?
Well, it's been like a lot of mixed responses. I'd definitely say the majority of it has been quite positive, which is good considering it's like quite a drastic change from previous stuff. So yeah, generally positive, I'd say.
A lot of your guys' albums in the past have stories that they're trying to tell.
Yeah.
This one, to me at least, wasn't as immediately clear as the ones before. Can you talk a little bit about the story that you guys are telling throughout the album?
Yeah, it's quite a similar story to like what's been told on previous albums, just kind of done a little bit differently. It's not as dark as previous albums, but generally I think the most important thing about this story is that like it's the track. There's like a phone number that you can put in there and put the tracks in that order, but that would only be the order for like my story and like how I would relate to the songs. But other people can put them in their own orders and sort of like work out their own storyline if they wanted to. You know?
Yeah, because like in Old Souls, it kind of tells it backwards, right?
Yeah.
Which is pretty cool. I feel like a lot of the reason people like Make Them Suffer is because of the stories that they tell. Some people were thinking that Neverbloom and Old Souls are kind of connected.
Yeah.
That's sort of a further question, but does Worlds Apart sort of tie into that at all, or is this a brand new story?
I mean, it is a brand new story, but in some ways they are all connected. I mean, they all follow like a similar sort of like series of events that would happen, and there are certain songs that fill certain kind of spots, I guess, that fill those same spots in other albums, I guess. So yeah, I think they're all kind of like similar, pretty much. But this one's got a completely different vibe. It's going for a spacey type of
which
thing.
I totally got. And is also really cool. I know if you really read into a lot of the sort of conspiracy theories online, looking for connections between Neverbloom and Old Souls, based on like the Lord of Woe appearing maybe in one of the music videos and stuff like that. Maybe for the fans, is there like any explicit connections that you want to clear up, or is sort of the questionableness of it, something you go for?
I like to leave it open to interpretation, I guess.
Okay.
I like to let people's imagination run wild, and if people come across something that they think like might not have necessarily been my intention, but they've put this sort of puzzle together and worked out something for themselves, well, that's cool in itself. The fact that that's getting people thinking about it actively and
I guess that is pretty cool if they're making their own story out of it. If you give the explanation, it might limit what people can imagine.
Exactly.
Okay. So recently you guys lost 3 members. One of them was Louisa, who I think people might be most interested in wondering what happened there, why the 3 people left, why she chose to leave.
Touring is quite, it's a tricky task for sure. It takes up a lot of time. Like around the time she left, we were touring about 4 or 5 months of the year. Right now we're doing probably 6 or 7 months of the year. And it's a lot of time to be away from home. She'd just finished her degree, and degrees are only kind of valid for a certain amount of time. She had a job offer that came up, and had just gotten involved with a new partner, and I think it was just worked out better for her that she wanted to kind of stay home and do the normal 9-to-5 grind, white picket fence, all that sort of stuff. But
so it's kind of safe to say that she won't be returning in the future.
No, I think she's happy with what she's doing, and that's something we totally support as well.
Okay, and I know I'm gonna totally butcher the new
the pronunciation.
Yeah.
Booker.
So like Buka or like Buka?
Booker. It's like a book. It's like a book with an A.
Okay, got it.
Yeah.
I was looking at that online last night, and I was like, this is going to be, I'm going to struggle with that.
Yeah.
So how did you guys select her out of I mean, was she a friend?
Yeah, she was just literally a friend, honestly. We didn't realize that, I mean, she'd been sort of kicking around, I guess, the like Perth hardcore and metal scene, just like friends of friends type thing, you know, I guess. And then it just sort of worked out that we'd found out that she kind of had been playing piano her whole life, and we were like, oh, that's pretty cool. And she was a fan of like our band, and yeah, I think Nick and her were out partying one night, and it just sort of like, hey, you should play keyboard for us. And she was like, yeah, that'd be great. And then it's like a couple of months later, it actually worked out. So yeah.
Oh, how cool.
Yeah, for sure.
Based on the reactions, I know earlier you sort of hinted at being aware of the fact that some people might not be as into this compared to previous releases, but based on reactions that I've seen, it seems like some fans have sort of a love-hate relationship with Bukka's vocals and the way that she contributes to the album, in a way where like previously I had never heard people complain about Louisa's contributions and her style and stuff like that. Going into it, did you guys anticipate that? What are your thoughts about it now, having seen that feedback?
Any change that you do, like, you have to expect criticism. And when we put out Neverbloom, that was the first introduction. That was the first time we introduced female clean singing, that particular song. And yeah, that definitely received a bit of hate on the internet in some of the comments. And that was something that Louisa was quite self-conscious about at the time. And you know, we just like warned Bukka that, you know, be prepared to expect quite a lot of, like, don't go reading through the comments, don't get like worry about that sort of stuff, because you're always going to get that kind of hate. And yeah, but we were for sure prepared for it. I think the way that we've done it though is like, it's a bit different to how other people would integrate clean vocals, and we're stoked with how it turned out for sure.
I recently did a review. I haven't posted it yet on any of my stuff, but one of the things that I noticed kind of happened a lot throughout the album, in addition to it being sort of an atmospheric feeling album with a lot of background stuff, was a lot of her singing in the background for maybe like 4 or 5 of the songs, kind of doing like the ooh, like vocals. I mean, I can't do it because I suck at singing, but like
oohs and ahs and things
like
that. Yeah,
kind of like that.
Yeah.
How did you guys decide to include that in so many of them? Or was it kind of like you got to the end of the album and it was kind of just like, well, it is what it is and this is how many we did when we wrote it?
No, I think that like the intention, or like, I guess that was sort of what we wanted the general core sound of the album to be, was to be kind of like spacey, floaty, ethereal vocals with, you know, the juxtaposition of jabbing rhythms over the top. Like, that's kind of what we were trying to go for, I guess. So we were all about that. I mean, I'd been listening to a lot of shoegaze and bands like My Bloody Valentine and stuff before we went into the recording process, and so I think that played a large part in writing the clean vocals and stuff.
Okay, that was going to be my next question, is the sound that you guys were going for on this album. I would describe it sort of as atmospheric compared to previous stuff. Yeah. I guess, so what would you describe it as, and what was the reason that you decided to pursue that sound?
Yeah, I would say it's atmospheric for sure. It's kind of, I guess, Nick's influence on guitar would probably be a little proggier than what we've done previously. Honestly, I to give a reason, I couldn't. That's just kind of the way things worked out. We just kind of fell into that. That was like that's just what felt natural to us. I mean, after we put out Ether, we were so stoked on how that song sort of turned out, and that was a huge leap of faith for us. But we had that one riff, you know, that was like the chorus, and we were like, dude, this is the coolest riff ever in that song. And we were so stoked to, you know, have the confidence to actually go through and put that into a tune. And now that gave us more confidence to mess around more with that sort of stuff. And then that's what Worlds Apart became. This wasn't one that I had written down, but
where do you think the sound will continue from here? More progressive sounding stuff, maybe? I mean, just really anything. What could it be?
It's so...
Or is it too early?
It's so early to tell. I need more time to digest the album. I kind of... part of me wants to do something a little heavier for the next album.
I think people would be a fan of that.
Yeah.
I would be a fan.
Yeah, for sure. I'd like to like somehow like bring it all full circle from here. You know what I mean? Or aim to start bringing it all full circle from, you know, joining Neverbloom to Worlds Apart.
I think a lot of people will be really happy to hear that. One of the questions, actually, the next one, perfect segue, was your vocals on Worlds Apart definitely tend more toward the mid-range compared to like on Neverbloom, and even on Old Souls had a bit more lows and some highs, especially in the Neverbloom days.
Yeah.
I feel like some people might speculate that it's because it's getting tougher to do those after being a vocalist for so many years. I mean, I guess could you just answer?
Yeah. Well, like I would probably say that, I mean, if you're judging the album based off the singles that we've released, then you probably rightfully would think that. But I mean, I personally think that Dead Plains is by far like the most brutal vocal performance I've ever given. So I don't know, maybe check that out before you know, like, I don't know. I think that, yeah, like, I definitely don't feel like my ability is limited in like doing highs or lows. I definitely think, if anything, like my lows and highs have gotten much stronger.
Okay, so people don't need to worry that
No,
like
like-
a Bring Me the Horizon effect is happening here where you're gonna lose it and like,
No, we're going to always retain our edge for sure.
Okay.
And we're like, this is probably as light as we're going to go.
okay.
Yeah.
I completely agree about, like, there are certainly some songs like Blood Moon from Old Souls
Yeah.
that have just as intensive highs as last time.
Yeah.
I would just say maybe some people compared to like Weeping Wastelands
Yeah,
and
for
Maelstrom,
sure.
where it was in almost all of the songs. So it's good to hear that.
Yeah. Well, I just don't know if like.
Do they get boring?
Yeah, like, well, doing highs is fun, particularly like with the new, like what I've been doing on the new record, where it's kind of like quite jabby and stuff like that. But yeah, singing some of the lows on Neverbloom is quite boring to perform live. I think it's just a little bit cookie cutter.
Yeah.
I'm not that into like what it's like to perform those songs live. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Vocally, that is.
Well, geez, you already answered the next question, which
Yeah.
was, I was going to ask if you plan on bringing back some of the elements of Neverbloom, but it sounds like the full circle thing.
Yeah, I hope to, definitely, for
Okay.
sure. That's
Do you
the goal.
feel like the story from Neverbloom and however it's related to Old Souls is completed, or do you think that will, like, an explicit addition to that will be called for in the future?
No. I don't know. I mean, I've kind of got some ideas about what I want to do, like, lyrically for the next album, and it doesn't really involve that. But yeah, it's definitely not complete. It needs more. There needs to be more Lord of Woe stuff for sure. Yeah,
Okay.
So,
I guess one of the next questions I had was about when you guys first signed to Rise Records and put out the Lord of Woe EP, the reissue of it.
yeah.
For me and the people who follow me on social media, is kind of an ongoing joke that Rise Records love to do re-releases of things.
Yeah.
I'm curious if the re-release of the EP was your idea or if Rise Records pushed it. And I'm not even asking you to like talk shit about Rise Records, but
Yeah, I mean, it was just we needed something to, honestly, I don't know. I mean, it comes down to like when you put out. I don't know if I should be saying this. No, it's
I don't want to get
absolutely
you in trouble here.
no. So when you put out a CD with a record label, they will give you like a recording budget,
Okay.
and we had just lost a whole bunch of money from a bunch of visas that didn't work out in the US, and we signed with Rise, and putting out content that was already pre-existing gave us the recording budget that they would then give us, and then we used that to pay for flights and stuff. So it's
Okay.
just
So it's a necessary part of being a band and progressing.
absolutely
And having more opportunities.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
They did it as a favor to us to, like, you know, now we've got a release in the US, and they've given us like funding essentially to go to the US and start touring here. Like,
Okay.
that's all that is.
Great.
Yeah.
That is a lot less harmless than
Yeah.
what my explanation was, and I figured out what my the question before was.
Yeah.
We were talking about lyrics, and lyrically, "Make Them Suffer" is extremely metaphorical. So this has two parts to it. The first part is the last song on Worlds Apart. You kind of step out in front of the metaphors that you normally use in your lyrics and directly address the topic. What made you want to approach the song that way, and maybe a little bit of background about what the story or that song means to you?
Well, that song was just during a pretty dark time for me, I guess, and yeah, I got kind of, I've been kind of sick of just hiding behind like these characters, these fictitious like characters that I create in these stories, and I just kind of wanted to I just needed to unload. I just needed to get a lot of stuff off my chest, and that's just the simplest explanation for that, honestly. It was just a big unloading of all the pent-up crap that I'd dealt with that year.
Maybe this is me reading into it too much, but I would say on Neverbloom, the Lord of Woe character is obviously you in the story, right?
Yeah.
On the Neverbloom album, the Lord of Woe is sort of the victim to what Morrow has done to their relationship. And to me, on Worlds Apart, on the last song, Save Yourself, it sort of seemed like maybe this is an entirely different relationship anyway, but I guess that should be the first question. Is the relationship that Morrow was, is that the same one that Save Yourself is addressing?
No, they're different relationships.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Because I was going to say in this new one, in Save Yourself, your character doesn't sort of take some of the responsibility for things that had gone wrong.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, for sure.
Sorry, that wasn't a question. That was mostly just me trying to figure it
I mean,
out.
that's what it is, and yeah, I think like with that song, you kind of do end up sort of putting it all together. That, you know, obviously the Lord of Woe and all that sort of stuff is me, obviously, and you know, I'm always been kind of writing from my heart, and that's what it's all about. But yeah, just the it was a different. It was just it's definitely a different relationship. I don't know what to say about that, but
okay,
yeah,
no, you don't have to say anything else.
Yeah.
Really closing in on the end here. My last question, just about the story that Neverbloom told. A long time ago, I remember on your Facebook page there was a note where you described the metaphors and what everything stood for, and the followers that I've had over the years are very curious about the story of Neverbloom and want somebody to explain it to them. And I can't reference the note anymore, and I have the things that I figured out on my own, off the top of my head. But I'm curious why the note was deleted.
I don't know. I think I just remember looking at it and going, "This is I don't know. I felt really weird about it. I mean, I deleted it. I don't know why. I don't know. Just something went through my head. I think I got a bit paranoid about it or something like that. I was like, there's a note up here and it's kind of weird. I don't know. Like, what?
I know this is such a throwback question. This was literally years ago, the first time I looked and saw that it was deleted. So I know this is probably just like the last thing you expected.
But honestly, what band page or what business page uses a note, like a Facebook note? I don't think I've ever
But I feel like there hasn't been.
I don't see very many notes on Facebook. I just thought the whole note thing was weird.
Yeah, I don't even know if Facebook even has notes anymore, to be honest.
Yeah,
but,
exactly.
But there wasn't an alternative for people who, and I know earlier you said sometimes the mystery is part of it, and letting them figure it out themselves is something that you want. So maybe. Yeah.
Well, I think that some of the songs in Neverbloom are like maybe so kind of cryptic that people just wouldn't like. You know, like if you just read the lyrics of Widower, you'd be like, what the hell is this guy talking about, without an explanation, sort of thing. Or a lot of people I think would be. So I think like some sort of explanation should be given there for sure. But
maybe if you guys tour the US again in the future before putting out a new album that takes up most of the questions, I can try to grill you about Neverbloom. And
I have every intention of rewriting that whole thing and then putting all of the albums in one big sort of, you know, like
I think that would be
note, so it all kind of works together. Yeah.
All right, Sean. Well, thank you.
A lot. I was just gonna say it's just a lot of writing, but
maybe if you sit down and like record it in front of a camera or something, it won't seem as such a chore. But
for sure.
Well, thank you for your time. Is there anything else you want to say? I know this is the last date of this US tour. Maybe your future plans or anything you want to say to the fans.
Hey, if you're from the US and you have come to any of the shows, thank you so much. New album, Worlds Apart, has been out for a couple of weeks now. I hope you're all enjoying it, and we'll be back soon.
All right, sure hope so. All right, thanks for watching, guys, and thank you again to Sean for Make Them Suffer. Definitely check out the new album, Worlds Apart, and keep an eye open for any future tours.